Hey, this is v.17 and welcome back to Factorio. Currently just going through and clearing out the old version of the factory so we can get the new science installed today. I've just got a bunch of active providers at the end of belts here and we're just going through and looking for belts that still have items on them. Then we're going to clean them out like this one here, for example. Finishing there, we'll just put a active provider and an inserter. Yeah, so just to make it a little bit quicker to actually clean out this factory so we can get the new version installed. We did a redesign on the science in the previous episode. We've got that installed today. I don't think it'll take too long, so we should have enough time to also do the space science as well, I think. Everything else is pretty much set up. We've got power is coming from solar panels, and we've got 4 sets of each type of smelting, which I think is more than we need. We're aiming for 75 science per minute in this factory, so it's only a smaller factory. It's more about getting used to version 17 of the game than producing a lot of science straight up here. We've got the defensive wall pushed out. There's a few more ore patches, but nothing really useful. We've got a few more copper patches. No extra iron though. So if we need more iron, we're going to have to actually do a little bit of exploration as well. We'll probably save that for when we get the trains up and running. But yeah, I'm going to go through and actually get all these belts cleaned out, and then we'll come back in a minute and get rid of all the assemblers and everything else. Okay, so we've removed everything off the belts. I'm just going through now with a deconstruction planner and actually removing the rest of everything else. I've only got just over 100 construction robots in the network, so we can't just deconstruction planner over the entire factory. We have to do it one piece at a time, but still getting it done pretty quickly. And then we'll be able to go back and remove the power and robot ports once we've done that. I think what we'll do after we've actually finished removing the first version of the factory, I'll go through and do a redesign of the core of the bus with the robo ports. So we can get that installed, put this storage somewhere, probably in the middle of the bus somewhere. We also need to actually refeed all this stuff back into the factory as well, but there's a lot of useful stuff that's in these storage chests. We'll have to keep that in mind as well. There's probably still a few items here and there in assemblers as well, so some of these are going to take slightly longer than others to pick up, but I've got a deconstruction planner filled in for all the things that we don't want to pick up, which makes it a little bit easier. I'm not going to worry about keeping the oil design. I've already pulled out most of the oil manufacturing. I'm just going to redesign that from scratch. It's not too complicated. There's probably a few changes I want to make to it anyway. So all the belts and assemblers and inserters have been removed. Just have to go through and pull out all of the power and robo ports now, and then we'll be ready to install the new version of the factory. I also realized that I don't actually have enough belts of iron or copper installed to actually get this new version of the factory fully operational. So we actually probably will have to wait until we get trains installed, so that'll probably be in the next episode, I think. But we'll be able to actually get the new factory installed and actually test it with the 4 belts of each. The amount of science that I calculated that we're going to be aiming for is 75 science per minute. We actually need 8 belts of each type of ore, but we'll still get the full capacity for the steel and green circuit production installed before we get the 8 belts of each ore type coming in. I've just been going through and just doing a little bit of work on the new version of the green circuits, and I've come up with a design that I think we'll probably give a test here in a second. I'm basically trying to go for something that's pretty much as compact as possible, but without using beacons or modules. So this is going to be an unmodule design. So having a look at the numbers of green circuits that we need, the total number of green circuits we need per minute is just under 5,500, which works out to about 3.1 belts of green circuits. So the design I'm going to go for is based on supplying a full belt of iron and how many green circuits we can get from a full belt of iron. So the iron input's actually going to be this belt right here, like so, and that's going to run all the way through all this and then loop around and then come back again. All of these are going to be the green circuit production. Change those over now. So you can see the iron belt runs underneath all of those. I'm using a splitter at each stage to actually get the iron out and insert that into the assemblers. So it goes all the way down, loops through and comes back again. And then the copper is actually, if we do this like a full belt of iron, it actually works out that for a full belt of iron, we're only consuming, actually we're consuming 1.5 belts of copper. So each one of these belts of copper at the top here need to be extracted from the bus. So I think we'll shift this. Actually, this storage, I think this storage needs to be moved one more time now that I look at it. So it's kind of in the way. I think it would probably make more sense to move the storage up to the very top. So we'll probably do that. And then we'll give this green circuit factory a test. These need to be cable. And then we'll go through and we'll figure out where we can put power in this setup. I don't think there's any positions for substations. Although actually no, on the outside here we might be able to put substations in. I don't think there's any positions on the inside to put substations. Yeah, substations will work fine. We'll put them in each, like there, and then one over here. If the power's going to reach between those, let's pull these rows down. Just quickly check that. Yes, it does. That works out nicely. And it reaches across the other side as well, does it? It does. Yeah, that's the way we'll do the power. But yeah, what I'm going to do one more time here, I'm going to move the storage up into, I guess here is probably a safe position. And then we'll plug this green circuit design in and see if it actually works. We'll just dump the green circuits that it makes into storage while we're testing it. So I've moved the storage from down here a little bit higher up to where the smelting's happening. And I've also shifted the green circuits. We're just going to test this first before we actually install all the capacity that we need. It's not actually going to be the most compact setup because it's going to take a bit of room vertically. We actually need to install 4 sets based on this. We actually need 3.1 belts. So each one of these setups can produce one solid belt of green circuits on fast belts. I'm just going to use fast belts for the foreseeable future on this map. I'm not going to worry about upgrading to express, at least until we've got space science up and running anyway. Then we'll go back through and actually probably do a redesign on some of this. So this one needs to be iron. Across to there. And then we will just do a quick little diversion of this. I need to... This can potentially actually get a full belt when we're testing. So what we'll do is we'll put in active providers. 6 of. We only need 6. Oh, actually, no, we might need more than 6 because they've actually increased the capacity slightly of fast belts. I think it's 30 items per second. It used to be 26. So we'll see if 6 are enough. That's 6. That's 6. And let's get some power and some auto robo ports. I probably need more than that. Again, just for testing purposes. So we get 2 belts of copper and 1 belt of iron coming through. I think everything is connected up here. The only thing we need to test, and we'll probably do it in a few stages, is what kind of inserters we need to actually use for this. Everything's plugged in. Let's give it a test, see what happens. Looks like fast inserters are going to be enough. Yeah, there's pauses happening there. Iron's coming through. Producing less green circuits than I thought it would. Although now it seems to be filling out a little bit. It looks like all of the green circuit assemblers are working now. Yep, and there's the solid belt of green circuits. And it looks like 6 inserters is enough to clear out the belt as well. So yeah, that design works. So we'll duplicate that 4 times. We'll just do 1 for now. I need to get some basic production back up and running so we can actually produce more assemblers and robots and other bits and pieces we need to actually build at this factory, but I don't think we've got enough assemblers and storage. 317 is probably enough to get us some of the way there. We also need to manufacture electric furnaces. I'm going to be using electric furnaces instead of steel furnaces. I think we need more than 250. Let's have a quick look. I've got the numbers here in a Factorio calculator. I'm just using the Kirk McDonald Factorio calculator to get the numbers that I need. If you haven't actually seen the Kirk McDonald Factorio calculator, it's worth checking out. They've actually just recently upgraded the visualization of the factories, which is very nice. Steel total we need 152. So we do have enough electric furnaces to actually get the steel, and probably not the green circuits though. We had how many assemblers? 317, and we need in total for green circuits. No, we've got enough. We have enough. We only need a total of 150-ish assemblers to get this installed. So yeah, that's working fine. So we'll disconnect that for now, and I'll go through and we'll do a design for the steel. Then we'll give that a test as well. This is the design I've decided to go for the steel. Nothing too fancy, fairly basic design. Just rows of electric furnaces, and then the belt feeding the iron in and belt feeding the steel out. Each one of these rows should produce a full belt of, not produce a full belt, but consume a full belt of iron. So that's that's the most furnaces that we need per belt of iron, basically. And we'll give it a quick test here. I just realised that we need to get a whole bunch of other stuff reinstalled as well on top of steel and green circuits. We need to get, probably in order of installation, we need to get oil production reinstalled. We need to get red circuits reinstalled, and then we need to get processing units reinstalled as well. And also gears and pipes. We'll probably just include gears and pipes in the top of the science when we get around to it. But we'll give this a quick test. Which one is that one there? Yeah, so I've made a few extra refineries here. I was just having a quick look at the number of refineries that we need to supply 75 science. And the number I'm getting, again, based on no modules, is 30 something, I think it was. Got it here somewhere. 34.5. Which I think we can only need to have one crude oil pipe supplying the whole thing. We'll see. But I'm probably going to use a similar design for the oil that I used for the science. Sort of breaking it down into its constituent components. So we'll have a strip of oil refineries. And then we'll have a strip of chemical plants doing cracking from heavy to light. Strip doing cracking from light to heavy. Although they're only going to be just a small number of these ones. There's not going to be a huge number of the cracking, especially when we get to things like sulfuric acid and lubricant production as well, which we'll include in the oil processing. So we'll probably put oil processing here, and then we'll put red circuits over here. Red circuits is pretty small, and then we'll figure out where we're going to put processing units. Obviously, processing units needs to go before the science. All we need to do here is check to make sure that it's actually consuming all of the iron, which I think it is. Like this very last furnace should be borderline. You can see it's not quite getting down to the absolute end. There's this furnace here which isn't working, but it looks like everything's cooking, which is good, so no problems there. Didn't think there'd be any issues there. There's a slight change that I made to the green circuits as well, so I could just show the changes I've made there. I've just slightly compacted. We've actually installed all the capacity for the green circuits we're going to need for the 75 science, and I've just slightly made each set of green circuit production just a little bit closer together as well. So I used to have these two belts actually both above ground, and actually have each section of green circuit production one tile further apart. But if we squeeze them this close together, we can actually just use a single substation instead of having to have two substations in this position. So it works out nicely. And then we're feeding the green circuit out the front, and then down, and then this will be our... We don't need 4 belts, but they'll eventually fill up. We'll end up producing more green circuits than we need, which is always good. And then we'll reinsert that back into the bus at some point. We'll decide where we're going to do that. A lot of those green circuits are going to get consumed straight away by red and processing units as well. So probably makes sense to actually put red circuits and then processing units down here somewhere, I think. That way the green circuits can come straight from here, straight into these, and then whatever remains will feed into the bus and then back into the science packs. But yeah, I'm going to do a quick design on the oil, and we'll probably actually go through and do the design on the red circuits and the process units as well, which are going to be, again, fairly straightforward designs. Nothing too fancy. I think probably the green circuits is probably the most exciting design that we've done so far at the start of the factory here. We've already got all the science packs done, so once we've got the oil and all this other stuff installed, we'll be able to install the science packs and get back into doing science. Yeah, so I've just spent way too much time doing the design on the red circuits here, so I think we probably need to get something installed and actually up and running so we can get the science installed. Give you a quick run through of the designs that I came up with. This is the first one. It's pretty basic, just a linear design. All of the copper cables getting manufactured at the start here and then fed through on the outside belts. And green circuits and plastic coming through in the middle. And the red circuits coming out from the middle as well. It's a pretty basic design, that one. This would work fine. We could use this. But I wanted to go for a hexagonal design instead, so I actually played around with it for a little while and ended up coming up with this design instead, which is using direct insertion pretty much for every single case where it can actually do that. So insertion of copper cables into red circuits is direct from the assembly machine, and then the outputs are coming from the right side of the red circuit assembly machines into these underground belts. See there, and or directly onto the belt from there, that one there, and then onto these belts in the middle. So this set of assemblers is actually feeding back this way, and this one's going this way into this belt in the middle, and then you could just funnel that down to the bottom and then join those up as an output belt. I'm only producing, it's less than a full belt, a full fast belt, to produce the 75 science that I want for this factory, so a single belt of output is going to be fine. And with that in mind, I actually changed this design even further into this instead, which is using a slightly weird belt setup, but it means that I only have one belt for the output for the entire thing. So for this one, I'm actually looping the output and the input belts at the end back through the process again. So for example, if we have a look at the output for the very first one here, we technically don't actually need this here, but I've just kept it there so when I copy and paste this, it'll actually match up if we want to add more later on. You can see it outputs to this belt here, which goes all the way down the end here. This is the output again from the red circuits. It loops around, goes back this way, and then it takes the output from these ones there as well. You can see the long-handed inserter, and then it loops back around, does these, and it does that the whole way down. Just loops through all of them, and down the very end, this here would be the output of red circuits. And I've actually done the same for the inputs as well. I think this is the green circuit and plastic input, which is actually backwards. Yeah, this is the input for the green circuit and plastic. You can see it's feeding through the underground, and then through all of these assemblers, or just the top two assemblers really. And I've actually got, strictly speaking, too many inserters for that, so we might actually modify this a little bit before we actually use it. You can see here I've got inserters on both sides of this one where I don't need. Do I have it on the bottom as well? Yeah, I've got it there as well. We can actually pull out one of those inserters. It's probably worth doing. Yeah, but the same with that, the green circuit and plastic goes through that belt, loops around all the way. It looks like the copper, I'm not doing that. Yeah, the copper, because there's only one set of assemblers, these ones in the middle that need the copper, I've only got the basically a split from the copper input for every single set of copper assemblers, copper cable assemblers. But I think what we'll do, I've done a basic starting design for the plastic, for the oil as well, so we'll get some plastic installed. I've also installed a few belts here just to make movement a little bit quicker. But I've got a pretty basic setup for the oil done here. It's not too complicated, just all of the different processes in strips. So refining, heavy to light cracking, and lubricant production, light to petroleum cracking, and then sulfuric acid production in the bottom here, and all the pipe connections on the side. So we'll add in some plastic production to this, and then we'll actually give the red circuit a test here. The nice thing about this red circuit design is that it can be expanded basically to belt capacity in either direction, so we can expand out this way and we can also expand down that way. We can basically make it any shape that we want, which is nice. Anyway, I'm going to get some plastic installed and then we'll come back and actually test the red circuits to make sure it actually works. So it turns out we've actually got quite a few things that we need to test here, but we'll get things plugged in some sort of order. We need to get the oil setup tested as well. I've just moved the output belts from the green circuits actually into the bus itself. They used to be in here. And I've also extended the copper supply all the way down and the iron supply. What we'll do is we'll plug in the green circuits first. Actually, I didn't put the inputs for the iron. Let's do that now. I'm just using this little design to get the items out of the bus. I don't want to actually connect things up just yet. I want to have all the inputs set up ready to go, and then we'll actually plug all these processors in. I think that's it. Oh no, there's a lot more actually. There's a lot of inputs for these. And we're out of underground belts. Hopefully we've got those. I don't have anything to make any more. Ooh, okay, I'm going to have to stop here and actually make some underground belts. I don't have enough. Yeah. Do I have fast belt in storage? I've got a few fast belts, no underground belts. I might just make them in my inventory, I think. How many am I missing? Yeah, I might just stop here quickly and we'll make a few underground belts, then we'll finish plugging this in. Okay, all the undergrounds are installed. I think we're pretty much ready to start plugging this in and just seeing what happens. So what we'll do, let's plug in this bottom section first. I don't think we're going to need to plug in all of the green circuits to test this, but we'll see. So we just should, actually it looks like we're already missing a connection here somewhere. It's backwards. That's probably the same the whole way up. Actually, no, it looks like it's fine on those ones. Just this one here is backwards. So if we just connect up that and that, and we should get green circuits out of this. Actually, there's one more copper down the bottom here. They're pointing the right way. Here come the green circuits. That's going into this thing here, and it's getting distributed to the one side of this belt here, which is going to have plastic on the other side. Plastic's going to be coming in from this belt here, through there, and then onto the other side of this belt, which is going to feed into the red circuits. That looks fine. Let's have a quick look through the green circuits. I don't know if we've actually had a proper look at this, but it looks like it's all working fine. Probably have a close look at that once everything's installed. That's actually producing a decent amount of green circuits as well. So let's go for the oil next. We've got power connected up already. Just need to connect up the oil and water. Oil is in. Water's in. Refining's happening. So we should be getting heavy oil, light oil, and petroleum gas out. I just realised I don't have a buffer tank for petroleum gas, so I'll probably go in and add a buffer for petroleum gas at the end of this and move those down. So we have all the buffer tanks at the front of each step in production in the oil. Okay, so heavy oil's coming in. We should be getting petroleum gas out. I've actually got petroleum gas. This is the design I came up with for plastic. It's fairly straightforward design as far as the actual placement of the chemical plants. The belts I've set up in a slightly wiggly way, just to test it out, see if it works. Kind of looks cool as well. And that's the coal input. We still need to connect that, and we also need to connect up this petroleum gas. We'll connect up the rest of the oil first, though. So this is set. We're probably not actually going to be able to test this, I think. That shouldn't be cracking yet. Quick look. Okay, it's not cracking. It's not getting any water. I've got the water disconnected. But it looks like... Oh, it's getting all converted into petroleum gas, to lubricant, is it? Okay, so we need to actually control production of lubricants. I think for now we'll just disconnect lubricant. Oh, that's going to back up anyway. I could have left that. Let's go undo for that. We'll just leave that there. That'll back up pretty quickly, I think. Yeah. We're actually not going to be able to test these things because this is actually set up to only produce, to crack heavy into light oil when there is above a certain level of heavy oil in this tank. So I think we'll just plug everything in and we'll come back to it later on and just check to make sure that it's all working properly. It's going to take a little while for all of these processes to actually turn on. This one's actually not too far away from turning on, actually. I've got it set to 12k, so when this gets above 12k, it'll actually turn on production there. And also, these need to be connected up, I just realised as well. That there, that's the output from cracking. That needs to go into the petroleum gas. And the light oil connection is going directly down, so that's fine. The light oil connection from the output of heavy to light cracking is this one here. That goes directly into the light oil. We're controlling the cracking based on water. So if we want to turn off cracking, we just turn off the water going into it. And this needs water as well. There we go. Sulfuric acid coming out. That'll be good for batteries, and there's a few other things I think that use it. Explosives. Okay, so we've got plenty of petroleum gas. Let's plug plastic in. Petroleum gas flowing in. Let's see if these wiggly belts actually work. Looks good. These are backwards. So yeah, wiggly belts worked. I just didn't have the, I'll just rotate those. Didn't have the inserters the correct way around. Looks good. Here comes the plastic. Seems to be working okay. Plastic comes through, goes to either side of this belt, looks good. What are we missing here? Oh, we still need to get copper connected up, which I didn't do. The only thing we have to do after this is the processing units, which I think is going to be a fairly simple design. Just red circuits and green circuits for processing units. Copper's getting loaded. You can see the copper cable assembly machines ticking over. This one's backwards. Looks good. I'd be shocked if there's not a single backwards belt here. We shall see though. Yeah, you can see they're working. That's actually backed up with copper cable. That's good. Okay, now we connect plastic and green circuits. Looks good. I'm just looking at these red circuit things turn on. And down the other end here, I've actually got this belt feeding into active provider chests, just to dump out the red circuits that we get from this. Why are you not working? I just hadn't received probably what? Plastic? They should all be working. Looks like they are. Yeah, looks like it's just taking a little bit of time for it to work its way down. Yeah. I think they're all working. Let's watch this for a little while just to make sure. This one here, for example, what's that missing? Plastic hands. Okay, backwards belt. The only reason I've got this underground there is so we can actually copy and paste that design. I think I said that before. You can actually copy that design to make it wider or taller. Looks like they're all active. I don't see any assemblers that aren't actually working at the moment, so it looks good. Only producing a very small number of red circuits. One thing I do notice though is that it's only producing red circuits from a single side. So we may go through at some point and try and even that up. Yeah, we do actually need to do that because it's the total amount of red circuits that I need to produce 75 science is just over half a belt, so we're actually going to need to use the other side of this belt. Yeah, that looks like it's working fine. We've only got a little bit of green circuits plugged in, but it's enough to test this. So what we'll do is we'll figure out how many red circuits we need to run the entire factory for 75 science. We'll get all of that installed, and then we'll get the processing unit production installed, and then move the science from over here. This is the new science design that I did in the previous episode. We'll move that down in here, and hopefully before the end of the episode we'll get some science produced. I think we'll be able to do that. Anyway, I'm going to finish installing the rest of the red circuits, and I'll be back in probably with the science installation, I think, next. So I'll finish expanding all the red circuits out here. This is the total amount of red circuits that we need for the factory. It's actually, I think, slightly more than we need. So we'll give that a quick test. I've got pretty much all the inputs set up here already. It's a little bit of a mess. I might go through and actually do a redesign on this at some point. It's not the neatest setup that I've ever done, but currently just dumping some green circuits back into logistics. We'll get rid of that for now. I've also set up a thing to produce pipes and gears, which we need for the science, and also I've set up just a basic thing for processing units. Nothing too fancy, just the green circuits and red circuits coming in the outside belts, and then the processing units going out on the middle there via long-handed inserters. Pretty basic setup. Yeah, let's plug red circuits in here. I think we just need to connect the greens up, which should be backed up a little bit. And then we need to connect up. Oh, that's still disconnected. We need to connect up the plastic to there and there, and then we need to connect up the green circuits to there and there. That should start working now. Let that go for a little while, and yeah, that'll feed red circuits down to here, and then we need to connect up the green circuits into processing units as well, and then we'll dump out the results down the bottom here. So yeah, we'll just give this a quick test, and then we'll shift the science over. Okay, everything seems to be working fine. There was a couple of underground belts in the red circuits that I had to flip around, but everything else looks okay. Why is this not producing? Oh, lack of sulfuric acid. Okay, let's see if we can quickly plug that in. I wouldn't mind giving the processing units a proper test before we begin. Did I just disconnect this? I must have. Yeah, I've just disconnected this pipe somewhere. Disconnection is... oh, it's top to bottom. We can fix that pretty easily. Okay. There we go. There's actually going to be a decent test of green circuits. I think we need to put another belt of green circuits in here. This is not producing at capacity, although it may eventually back up. I don't think it will, though, judging from this top side. So yeah, I think we need to get a second belt of green circuits in. So this setup is probably not going to work. I need to actually have basically a full belt of green circuits for both sides. Okay. Well, we'll do a redesign on this. I'll quickly show you what I'm going to do for the science. We'll run over to where the science is at the moment. I've actually made a blueprint book with all of the different science packs ready to go, which has just basically been copied from this setup over here. This is the design I did a couple of episodes ago, I think, or previous episode. And I've just put that into blueprint books. Also, I've made a left and a right version because I was going to put all of the science just on one side of the bus, so just have all this science down here and, you know, move the whole thing. But I think what I'll do is actually put some science on this side and some on this side, and then we'll try and find a location, I think in the middle, in between the two science packs for the labs. The other thing is I don't really have to put the science in order, so I can put some of these later science packs earlier if I want to. Not sure if I'll do that. I probably will keep them in order just for simplicity's sake. But yeah, I'm going to go through and do a redesign on that processing units, and then we'll come back and start moving the science over. So I think it's about time we start installing the new science. We've got all of the science designs in this blueprint book. I've gone through and actually removed the initial setup we had for that science over here, just when we're doing the design work. So I've actually picked up all of the assemblers and belts and everything that we need to actually build it. So we should have the right number of those. I think we've got enough room. I've just made a little bit of extra room. I probably need to shift some pipes down here as well, but I think we'll just go through one science pack at a time and start installing this. We want to start at the very first science pack, which is red. Now we've got a choice, obviously, which side of the bus, but I think I'll just alternate between sides. I think it's probably going to be the easiest way to do it. And the other question is, do I want to leave space for another walkway? Actually, it might be worthwhile actually shifting gears up a little bit, gears and pipes up. I actually kind of want to do that for the circuit as well. What I might do is I might go through and actually install signs first, and then we'll shift things up later on if we need to. But we'll leave walkways between all of the science pack production, I think. So let's go for that. Should make it a little bit simpler to actually lay it all out, I think. Red signs. And then we'll go through and plug all of the science packs in and try and find, we'll probably just find a temporary location, put some labs just to give the, we don't actually need to put the labs in, I suppose, to actually test the science packs. We can do that without labs. Green signs, I think. Logistics, it's called, yeah. The only thing is probably going to have issues with battery power building all this stuff, especially all the concrete. It kind of makes sense to actually do this the other way around. I'll probably just do it in order from the most basic science pack to the more complicated science packs initially. There's probably an argument for actually doing the most complicated science packs first, because they probably consume the most resources, which would actually free up space for the putting the labs in the middle. So I'll get us up from the most basic to the most complicated science initially, and then I might go through between episodes and actually see if we can actually flip it the other way around, put the most complicated science at the top instead. Nope, not that one. Next up is military. I just flipped these using an online tool, so hopefully there's no errors in these blueprints, these flipped blueprints. Anyway, I'm going to go through and finish installing all of these science packs and plug them in, and then we'll come back and give them a quick test, and that should probably do it, I think. Okay, all the science packs are up and running. There was a few problems with backwards belts, but nothing too serious. The main issue we had was adding in the extra power. We didn't have enough power to actually produce all the science packs and also operate all the electric mining drills we've got installed as well. So we actually are running a little bit short on coal. So that's actually affecting our smelting speed a little bit, but we can fix that next time. But yeah, let's have a quick look at the factory before we finish up. See the copper and iron smelting at the top there, lacking coal, so we'll need to fix that pretty soon. I think we've got another coal patch in here. Yeah, we've actually got a few coal patches we can connect up for that. We've got coal and iron and copper smelting, steel, green circuits, oil production, red circuits, processing units, and then all the science packs. What we're going to do is probably try and find a space, like I was saying before, in the middle here if we can. It might cause an issue with some of this late iron that needs to be extracted. But you can see there's no copper getting extracted past this point, so we could use that space in there. Just probably need to divert one of the iron belts down this side somewhere. Just try and make a space in here for some labs. But I'm going to leave it there for today. Hopefully next time we can get the trains and the space science up and running. But until then, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.